Okay. Sue, does it sound any better this time? Hey, Gene. All right. I switched from an iPad to a phone, so I don't know what, when it gets technical, it doesn't always go well. So anyway, just kind of moving right along as we kind of get started here. Um, we'll talk about a couple things tonight. One of them I wanted to talk about. We had a really good group at the church Monday night. A bunch of kids that ride for cancer. They're from the University of Illinois. They ride from the Statue of Liberty 4,000 miles to the Golden Gate Bridge to raise money for cancer research, camps for cancer patients, camps for somebody in the family. It's a family camp for someone there, and all that. And it was every time those kids show up. We had 18 kids this time, and every time I've just been a part of it twice. Well, actually 3. They came last year just to come over to see everybody, even though they weren't doing any riding. And they're just super kids. And I'll tell you, of course, Randy recorded a little bit of it. There were a couple of kids in there that could have been concert pianists. One young man went into the sanctuary and started playing, and I mean, it sounded like Carnegie Hall in there. And then after supper was over, there was a whole bunch of them. There was 4 or 5 different ones. 3 guys and a gal that sat down and played on the piano. That was just unreal. In the past we kind of provided entertainment for them. This year they provided entertainment for us. And none of these kids were had been there before. So, it was kind of, but they knew all about the church. They knew all about everything from all the other people that were there. And so it's always such a blessing. We had a lot of people that helped, a lot of people that came in, and all those sort of things. But, one of the things I want to talk about, like I said, I mentioned a little bit about flying the flag in church and all that in the newsletter. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the flag, and there's a lot of misconceptions around the flag, and I'm a pretty patriotic person, and so some of those things kind of matter. As I put in there, the reason we celebrate on June 14th is June 14th was the day that that Congress, the First Continental Congress, June 14th, 1777, passed a law or a resolution or something along that line that said we will have a flag. And the first flag they came up with looked too much like the British flag, so George Washington said, "This isn't good, you need to do it again." That was the first one was in 1775. So they come along with this flag because every little group, if there was a group from Pittsburgh, well, it would have been Pittsburgh. Philadelphia, they had a flag. A group from New York, they had a flag. All these different groups had flags, and they wanted to unite them underneath one. And they came up with the Old Glory, as we call it, in 1777. And then in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson finally signed it into law, Flag Day. Now, Flag Day is not a national holiday. Nobody gets that day off. It's hardly even recognized, but it is a day that is special because it was one of those things that unified us during the Revolutionary War, that brought all those different people together, that represented so many different areas in the country at that time, and the 13 colonies brought them all together under one. And one of the very first things that unified them, because then they felt like they were all in it together. And that the flag stayed that way until 1794. That was the first time the flag was ever changed, and that was because Kentucky became a state. So they had 14 now that they had to add. And They did some changing around a few times and adding the different stars, and sometimes they added different stripes, and then finally in the Flag Act in 1916 they decided that it would remain 13 stripes to recognize the 13 original colonies. The field of blue with the stars that represented each state that was put on there. Now, what's really interesting, how many of you were taught in school or been told all your life that Betsy Ross was the mother of the flag? That Betsy Ross was the one that sewed the flag together and all that. Now, Betsy Ross did sew uniforms. She sewed tents for the Revolutionary War. She did a lot of those kind of things. But there are no historical documents that Betsy Ross ever did anything or had anything to do with the flag. It was in 1870, almost 100 years later, 93 years to be exact, that her grandson held a press conference to tell everybody that his grandma was one of the people that sewed the flag together. Didn't really have any evidence of that other than, well, my grandma told me she did, type thing. And so that was the kind of the way, and for some reason, people just begin to accept it. It's almost like those social media things. If somebody says it and it's out there, then it must be the truth type thing. But right now, historians will tell you there is no proof that Betsy Ross had anything to do with it. There's no proof that she didn't, but there's no proof that she did. So finally, the last flag that we have came into effect in 1960. When Alaska was about to become a state, they decided to have a contest to see who could come up with the next design for the 50 stars or the 49 stars. And so as those things went out, there was a kid, his last name was Heft, Bob Heft, and he was 17 years old. He was in school in Ohio, and he took one of his parents' flags, kind of basically cut the stars off of it because, used to, they weren't made into it. They were basically sewn onto them. Took another flag, and he didn't stop at 49. What he did was he said, Hawaii's going to be a state pretty soon. And he put 50 stars on there, turned it in as a class project for this thing, and he got a B-. But he also sent it to his congressman, and the congressman presented it to President Eisenhower, who was the one that chose. And I'll tell you what, you want to see some ugly flags, you ought to see the 10 that are in the Eisenhower library. You can look them up online. Flags that were rejected in 1960 or something like that. But Eisenhower chose that young man's flag to be the flag that we fly now. And then his teacher actually went back and changed his grade from a B- to an A when the president decided to fly the flag. Eisenhower invited him to Fort Sumter, which is where they raised the flag. The law said that the flag would be raised on July the 4th. Every time a flag changes, it is raised for the first time on July the 4th, following when the latest state becomes a state. And so Eisenhower invited this young man to come and be with him as they raised that flag. Now, there's a lot of things out there about the flags, and if you've ever been in the military and Boy Scouts and anything like that, you learn a lot about how you raise it, how you lower it, what you do if it's at the half-mast, and a lot of different things like that. Even what you do if you're in distress as far as flying the flag. But a couple of things that we do that people don't even think about today, or that they think of something else, and one of those is flag-draped coffins. A lot of times when there is a veteran that dies, we put a flag over their coffin. And then what's really cool is when somebody from the military, at least a couple from the military come and fold that flag, either at the when the services are being performed inside, or when it gets to the graveyard, and present that to the family. But did you know that there's no law, no statute, no resolution, no anything like that that says that that is to be only for uh, veterans or people that served? It's actually anybody can have a flag draped coffin. So there's really no protocol around it. If that's something you so desire, you need to make sure somebody knows about it before it gets to be too late. One of the other things, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm as guilty as everybody else. The Flag Act, or the flag, which adopted the Flag Code, which is all that determines how wide, how tall, the size of the stripes, the colors of the flag, because there are specific colors it's supposed to be: Old Glory red, Old Glory blue, and then white. And so, but on top of that, there's a lot of other things that you can't fly it at night unless there's a light on it. If you're flying it with the state flag, it has to be higher. If you're flying it with another country's flag, it has to be of equal size and on an equal standard or an equal size flagpole, a lot of different things like that. But what I'm guilty of, and probably a lot of you as well, is that flag code says also that the flag is never to be used for drapes, bedding, which we usually don't have too much trouble with that, or apparel. Now, how many people do you see wearing the flag? It's not supposed to be on apparel. I don't know how many shirts I've got with a flag on it. I got a flag tie that I wear around a lot of national holidays, and there's other folks that wear them too, or they just see them going down the street with a coat on. That's looks like an American flag. Technically, officially, according to the flag code, nobody's supposed to be doing that. But I'm one, for instance, that says, any way you want to fly the flag in an honorable manner is good. And so that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It does bother me to see somebody desecrating a flag. But, when people wear them, when they have them on, they're not doing it to desecrate the flag. They're doing it to honor the flag and the people that serve underneath it. And it's one of the things that I wrote in the newsletter. The thing that for me, it represents more than anything are all the people, not just the soldiers, but beginning with the soldiers in the Revolutionary War, all those that have fought since then, all the other people that have fought to keep our freedoms where they are, including the founding fathers, the ones that wrote the Declaration, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of the other things along the way. Those that have made this country what it is, and that it represents, in my opinion anyway, the greatest country on the face of the earth. We were fortunate enough that God created us and placed us here, and we should never take that for granted. Now, one of the things too about flags that a lot of people do is nothing else is to be on a flag. It is never supposed to be in any other colors but the Old Glory red, Old Glory blue, and white. But, we see flags with the blue stripe through the middle. We see them in black and gray. You see police emblems, fire emblems. You see American Legion emblems. You see all kinds of emblems in the middle of the flag. None of that is supposed to be there. Even when you have a politician or somebody that takes a flag and signs it, gives it to somebody, you're not supposed to write on a flag. No markings, no drawings, no insignia, no nothing is supposed to be on the flag. The flag is supposed to be the flag. And the founding fathers, and then those in the Flag Act of 1916 felt like it is, they called it a sacred symbol. And that they were afraid that if people began to wear it or abuse it, all those kind of things, that it would lose its specialness and what it actually means and the things that it represents. But and maybe back then, I don't think that is such the case today. And the other thing, it's never supposed to be on the floor. That's one of the things that I learned in Boy Scouts, actually all the way back in Cub Scouts, which is starting about the first or second grade. And then they taught us that in school. Flag never touches the ground. When you're raising a flag or lowering a flag, you hold it in a way that it never touches the ground. If you're carrying a flag, if you're waving a flag, it's supposed to never touch the ground. And so, there are actually people that make rugs and carpets and that kind of stuff with flags on them, which is really against the flag code and all of that. Now, the you know, with the flag the way that it is, being adopted in 1960 to today, that is the longest time that we have had a flag that did not change. So even the flag we have today is unique, unless another state comes along. That's the way that it's going to be. That's the only time that the flag can be changed, is the addition of another state. And one of the things that they taught us in school too was that, there were meanings to the things that, the colors, the red and the white stripes did represent the 13 colonies, that the red represented bravery and valor and strength, that the white innocence and purity, and the blue vigilance, perseverance, and justice. And that the whole idea of the stripes and the stars, and also, of course, we were told that the red also represents the blood of all of those that have served to keep it that way. But when the founding fathers come up with this idea of the blue, what they call the blue field, and the white stars, the whole point was this country is a new constellation, something new that's being formed, something that's being formed. This in the same way that God created the heavens and the earth, and that all that constellation had to, the first one was a big circle, and there's been several different kind of versions of those things of the stars on there. But the whole point, even today, is that all of those stars represent a new constellation, something that's new and different than anything else in the world, something that is held up and revered like the stars in the sky. The other thing about it is that all the stars are the same size and pointed in the same direction, that we're all equal. No state is above any other. No state is less than any other. All states are pointed in the right direction and all those things. So they really put a lot of thought into the flag. And so it's really something that we should not take for granted. We should think about. And just the whole idea of countries and our government and all those things, and honoring the government and all, is something that we do and that we're called to do. Now, the Jews back in Jesus' day, they did have some problems with some of the flag flying, but the flags of the Romans, it wasn't about the flag or the country. At those times, in the times that there's nothing really in the Bible, but something that we read in history, the problem wasn't of somebody else flying a flag or they didn't like the flag. The whole point of that was it was about emperor worship. That to salute the emperor's flag usually had his face on it, was to salute the emperor as emperor and God. And so the Jews wouldn't do that. But the Jews have had flags. It talks about having standards. If you use that term, that's what it's talking about, something to follow, something to lift up, and all that. So I want to read you a couple of passages really quick about the countries and everything. And I had to, Gail calls these my old man glasses. I grabbed them on the way out. Anyway, this is out of 1 Timothy 2. I urge you then, first of all, that requests, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. For this is good and pleases God our Savior, who wants all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. And then he goes on to say that he wants everybody to lift up the country, lift up their hands in prayer. And then in Romans 13 it says, everyone is to submit themselves to the governing authority, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. So consequently, he who rebels against authorities, rebelling against what God instituted. So he says, for rulers hold no terror over those that do right, but for those that do wrong. So he goes on to say, then do what is right, and God will commend you, and the leaders will commend you. So, and God, he says that our leaders are God's servants and things. And so, and that's what it's talking about, having a just leader and all those things. So it says that the point is that we have the government we have because God instituted all governments. We should be thankful for that. So flying a flag isn't something that is, I've heard people talk about it, American nationalism as if that's a bad thing. Personally, I think that's a good thing. I've heard them talk about a lot of Christian folks being Christian nationalists, and I don't really buy into that term. Most of us understand that we don't belong to a nation. We belong to a kingdom first, the kingdom of God, and then to our nation. But it's our nation that gives us the freedoms that we have to be the Christians that we want to be. And so we need to honor that as something that God has instituted, something God has set in authority, something that God blesses. Now, it doesn't mean that it's perfect or it does everything right, but we have freedoms that people in this country don't have anywhere. We have things that, just to be kind of blunt about it, if it wasn't for how great this country is, we wouldn't have a border problem. And we do because people want in. And they see this as a whole lot better place and the best place on earth to come to. And not just from Central and South America, from all over the world. People are coming to the United States more than they go to any other country. So we have a great country. God has blessed us. Our flag represents that. We need to remember, it's actually on June 14th, which is next Tuesday. So we won't have one of these before Tuesday, so I want to do it today. To honor the flag, to honor what it represents. And, on the 4th of July, good chance we'll be in Vincennes at the big parade and all that kind of stuff down there. One of the coolest things for me is that still it's a place in which every time an American flag goes by, people stand up. Most of them put their hand over their heart and salute the flag as it goes by because they understand what it means. Because of that flag, we can have parades, we can have celebrations, we can have the freedom to go from here down there and back. And that flag represents all those things. So I'm proud to have it in church, to be displayed in our church, along with the Christian flag on the other side, because this is a country God has made what it is, because God's people have helped to make it what it is. So, just want kind of leave you with that, God bless America. I'm not going to sing it to you. God bless America, and stand beside her and guide her and all those things that's there, because that's what it's all about. So I hope you have a blessed evening, what's left of it, and that God is with you and watches over you, that he blesses you and keeps you, that you enjoy this beautiful day and the days to come and every day that God gives you. So go in love, peace, and be blessed.